Hey everybody, welcome to the very first Murn podcast. I am Luke McGowan, I am the photography editor here at Murn, and I'm joined by Andy Campbell, who's the creative director of Murn. He's going to tell us a little bit about what Murn actually is, so I'm going to pass you over to Andy now.
Okay, so obviously Murn is a free-to-access online magazine platform.
Yeah.
We're aiming to showcase art that's just undefined by any medium. And this was really born out of an idea to kind of get away from creative people submitting work to outlets that may not have been run by other creatives, because obviously they may not understand the ins and outs of the art, the desire to get featured, the struggle of not having a big enough follow account, because that is a factor regardless of what people say. So Murn really was just kind of brought about. It was something that I really wanted to make, just to give everyone a platform to be inclusive of everything, all genders, all sexes, everybody. I wanted it to be something that people can feel included on, regardless of what it is that they're making or regardless of who they are in themselves. Another big part of it was just kind of aiming for it to be like a networking platform. Something that we've noticed throughout the couple of months that we've been live now is when we feature someone, we're seeing that the people who are featuring are following other people who we featured, and it's really nice to see that people are connecting via the platform as well, which is something we really want to focus on going forward. But really, just in essence, Murn is something that we want to just devote to creative people, just to giving creative people that voice and that outlet.
For sure, yeah. And something that I've noticed is that people that we have featured, it's helped them build the confidence, and that's again just like giving back, and it's priceless to build people's confidence and things like that.
Absolutely, it's because it's like some of the people that we've had on it's been their first ever real feature, other than what they're posting on Instagram. And there've been people who we've spoken to who have said that without this kind of encouragement from other people who are trying to push out art to a wider audience, they may never have approached anyone about it. So it's nice that the people are approaching us, but also that we're approaching people, and it's showing people that there is somebody that's interested in your work, regardless of if you've only got 100 followers on Instagram. It doesn't matter. There are people out there looking at your work.
For sure, yeah. So we are about 5. Well, we've released 5 issues so far, and we're about maybe 6 or 7 months into planning of Murn, and we decided that we wanted to branch out and create a podcast. And I see it more as a bit of some more content that we can release in between issues, and so that we can provide people with a bit more feedback and an opportunity to maybe get guests on and other artists that we can interview and things like that. But we also just wanted to put a bit more of a face to the Murn team, because people so far, we've had a lot of people when they've been submitting being like, who am I talking to? And just help people to see who they're talking to. And it's just a way of getting more content out there. So, yeah.
Exactly. It goes back to that point of we're not just kind of a faceless entity that, doesn't want to help people. We're literally here just to try and support and help people. And we felt that it would be good to have something like this where it's literally just, obviously this first go is just me and you talking, but future on, we're going to have more artists on. We're going to be featuring more
it's
people.
Definitely in the plans, isn't it?
Because obviously it's all well and good messaging through Instagram and email and whatever else, but without that personal touch, really, people aren't going to be interested in the platform at all. So we're just trying to move forward and get ourselves to be more approachable and interesting to people who we meet in the future.
Yeah, and we do both come from creative backgrounds. We want people to understand that we're not just posting people's work and not really having much opinion on it. We both come from, I personally come from a photography background. I've practiced photography for over 10 years. I've studied in it, gone through most of my education studying photography, and spent a long time in filmmaking. And Andy, you have spent a long time in photography as well.
Yeah, but a lot of my background has also been quite closely rooted into writing and into research as well. So obviously I do have that photography and creative background. Like you said, I've been but mine has always been more of a hobby context, where I know you've been a lot more kind of active in actually pursuing a career in photography, and it's been your livelihood for some years. Whereas I've kind of had a lot of time of just kind of doing writing and research. So we have got a good mix between us of the visual and the kind of textual side of things, which I think has always been really good for us. And it's helped us to get to where we are now and to progress so quickly. Because one thing that we do always do as well, that we don't really mention it much because it's not kind of the more interesting of the things that we put out there. But obviously, we do constantly track Murn's growth, because we are intending to grow. We want to get bigger. We want to develop, and
which is why we've exactly why we've started a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And we've been looking through, and just the scope of Murn so far. We've had artists from all over the world. We've had America, Canada, Colombia, France, Australia. We've just had them from everywhere, and we've been viewed even further than that. So we've had views in India, we've had views in South Korea, we've had views from pretty much the entire of North America, South America.
It's got quite a big reach so far.
It's just surprising how well it's done and how many people we've actually managed to reach, considering it's just a startup between me and you.
Yeah, even in the latest issue, we had people from USA, Australia, France, and London. It's like it's always varied. It's never just like concentrated in one particular place or like put in one particular market or things like that.
Which is good, because obviously, like I said about what Murn is, it's inclusive. It's something that it's not just going to be covering one particular area.
For sure,
and one thing I really want to focus on is just getting more people from an even more diverse spectrum of the world, just to get involved and get more people, more work showing.
Yeah.
Because I feel where a lot of platforms kind of fall short is where they kind of just stick to very westernized art, very things that just kind of exist in, what they're used to, rather than broadening out and looking at things that may challenge their own perceptions. So I think that's something that I really, really want to push for. That's one of my personal goals with Murn in the future.
Yeah. And we do want to obviously, like we say, put a face to the Murn team. So we're going to take a little bit of an opportunity to talk a little bit about past projects and things that we've done, just to kind of highlight a little bit more about ourselves, because that's basically what this first podcast is about. Yeah. So if you want to talk to us a little bit about something that you've worked on in the past and something that you've been happy with, and people can understand your background a little bit more.
Yeah. So there's been a couple of things. Like, one of the things I'm really keen on is I like to write poetry. It's one of the big things that I've always tried to... It's never been like the main focus of my creative drive. One of my biggest things used to be that when I used to work in a different part of Manchester to where I currently work, I used to... When I would walk from the train station to work of a morning, I would jot down these lines, and they basically just would then become poems. So I've got a lot of really, really just poems that I'm very happy with. One particular poem that I'm super happy with that I've actually got on, I've got it online somewhere. I can't remember entirely where it is, but it's up there somewhere.
Yeah. Like most things.
Yeah, it's just one of the things. You upload it and then you just kind of forget about it. But yeah, I've got this poem that I've got up. I think it was called Freedom. Mm-hmm. It was a really great poem that I really enjoyed, but like I said, it's just one of them that's kind of drifted into the ether. On the more kind of visual side, so on the photography side, one of the projects that I have that I'm most proud of was the project that I shot in Moscow. So that was essentially where I traveled to Moscow with a friend. My friend was at the time engaged to a girl who lives in Moscow. And he'd travel over there all the time on his own. He'd have like long layovers and stuff in the airports. He'd constantly be just going over there on his own to go and visit her. And one day I just kind of invited myself along and said, I'm going to come with you for 3 days. I basically just, I'm just going to invite myself on a long haul trip to Moscow with you. So I went with him, and I just kind of shot the process of just him and her meeting up. And obviously the little ins and outs of his, where he had typically used to be alone, and now I was kind of there to take pictures of it.
Sort of like a documentary kind of style.
Yeah, it was just it was nice to just kind of follow him along and just to see that whole side of him, because obviously you never see that kind of side of people.
No, definitely not.
You never get to see that. So
good to capture it as well.
And I got some really great stuff, some quite intimate stuff of just them kind of walking around and being themselves in Moscow, and it's a project that I'm really, really proud of.
Yeah,
really, really proud of.
Yeah,
and actually, on the topic of past work, our first issue featured some of your past work.
So my background is definitely more documentary style. Like Andy did say, I pursued a career in photography after finishing university, and I pursued that for a few years. But I didn't like the way that the job kind of took the passion away from it for me. So I kind of branched out a bit and kept it more personal. And but I still practice photography every day. I used to be huge into making band videos, and that they would be like music videos and things like that. And I spent a lot of time working in commercial areas, but past projects that have been personal to me and something that I've kind of continued for around 5 years now is a project that I featured in the very first issue of Murn, which was back in April. And that project was about illegal fox hunting. Now, before any judgment is made, I wanted to make sure that people understand that I am not for illegal fox hunting or any kind of hunting in general.
Well, first and foremost as well, you're sitting across from like a devout 4-year now vegan. So
Yeah. You had to squeeze that one in, didn't you?
it's just backing it up. Obviously, we understood that like there might have been a lot of backlash about that project.
Of course, yeah. And I tried to make it as very clear as possible that I was not for it. And yeah, that project has like gone really big for me. I've had it put in big prints. I've had books made about it. It's just something that has always carried a lot of weight on my shoulders with it, and yeah, it means a lot to me. And I grew up in a place where I was constantly in vicinity of like those kind of animals, and I spent a long time photographing in the woods and things that are close to home. And there's like a big private stretch of woodland that I visit like at least once a month now and take pictures there. And every time I go there, I'm constantly thinking about this project, even if I'm not working on it at that current time, it's definitely always going to stay with me. And that's just something that I've always done.
Yeah, so like I remember when you first approached us about featuring that work in the first kind of inaugural Murn issue, and it was just, I know how long you've been working on it and how proud you are, and how important some of the stuff that you raise in it is, and how much people don't realise that sort of the way that these kind of things go hand in hand with conservation and things like that. And it's just such a murky and dark and kind of complex issue, but your work, it captures it exactly. It shows exactly what it is and what it means to people, which is why it causes such a jarring sort of response.
Especially here in the UK, it's like a big thing.
Yeah, it's huge, especially in the kind of animal activist movements and stuff, which obviously it's too complex an issue for anyone really to get into and to know the ins and outs of fully, which is why work like this is so important to explore it. So now that we've kind of discussed a little bit about ourselves, I think it's worth just kind of touching over some of the previous work that we've had.
Yeah.
I think just I'm so humbled and so proud of the people that we've featured and the extent of the work that we've had. Because we've had, some really, really cutting and honest poetry, as well as some just absolutely stunning, travel photography, portrait photography. Even just things like, some of the films that we've had submitted as well. It's just the breadth of the work that we've had is so inspiring. Just that there's people out there that are making this kind of stuff. Obviously we've had a couple of active students submit as well in their work to show that people are coming up, just so powerful. Obviously I had the opportunity as well to go and see Alicia's work in
Manchester
in a degree show. And obviously it was all well and good to see the images that she submitted, and to hear her kind of talk about the diameters of the painting, but to go and to see it, how big it was, how just impressive and how immersive it was absolutely stunning. And again, it was humbling to stand in front of it and just go, wow, like I don't have any kind of capability in the sense of painting, specifically something that's so big. Like the idea of painting something that's that big, to me, just, I think very much in like kind of text or in capturing a photograph. So putting in the hours, literally hours, days, weeks that it would take to slog out something like that is just absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, and that helped. That's, you're talking about engaging with the creators and the people that are submitting to Murn, and that's definitely something that we want to do with this podcast. We definitely want to open up opportunities to get people in and get to know the people a little bit better and give people a chance to explain their work a little bit more. Sometimes you can put images online, and we usually ask for a brief little backup to go with the images so people can understand them a little bit more, but often you need more than just 500 words. You need to talk about it and help people.
Plus, there's only so much that we can say as well, because obviously, or any of our guest writers can say without having a proper conversation, having a real face-to-face conversation with somebody. Yeah, because there's going to be so much to it that you just can't put into words. we couldn't put into words, they couldn't put into words. So, and as well, not only just including people in the podcast as well, we've got more kind of ideas for other original Murn content of going out and meeting up with artists and, you know, shooting some kind of footage with the artists and, you know, just engaging with people more and more and more, just to get more people the opportunity to be seen and to be heard, as well as to have their actual artwork to be seen and heard.
Yeah, and it's definitely a good opportunity for us to practice our like photography and filmmaking background, because I enjoy practicing it all the time, and I definitely would love to have an opportunity to go and make films about other artists and show other people's work off, because, you know, sometimes it feels good to give back and help people out. You know, it's great when you get a response from somebody saying, "Oh yeah, this really helped me out," and thanks for, especially with Murn, you know, we're featuring artists and it's completely free, and we're literally just doing nothing but helping people out right now, and it feels really good. Something that we definitely do plan to do on the podcast is talk about the most recent issue that we have just released, and this podcast will probably go out about a week or a couple of weeks after we've just released August, and we had 4 fantastic artists. I already touched on it, saying that they were from the USA, Australia, France and London, and if anybody does want to go back and check out that, obviously all our links will be probably surrounding this podcast everywhere. And definitely go and check out this work, because we've had like really good response, and it's just really good work. And
again, though, it's important to touch on the fact that although August has been an issue where it's been heavily photography based, we haven't had much other than photography. It's the variance in the styles of photography, how interesting they are, how just with, you can have 4 different features of photography and each one is just totally different.
Sure, yeah.
Totally just blows your mind with some of the things that people are coming up with to make work out of. It's like I said, for me, it's so awe-inspiring, and it kind of, as you were saying, Murn gives us the opportunity to kind of hone our craft as well. But obviously, it gives you so much inspiration as well to be looking and to seeing what people are submitting.
Yeah, I think it's the fact that there's so much stretch between them that makes them separate in their own.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I'm lost for words sometimes in some of the work that we get. That there's just some people who submit work or who contribute work, and it's just absolutely, I'm just flabbergasted at some of the stuff that people are making.
Yeah, and you know, it's worth pointing out that we do take submissions all the time. Like, we're always asking for submissions, and if you've spent time working on something, and no matter what it is, if you've put effort into it, then it's definitely worth seeing it. Because if you've spent time to sit and go through something and you think that it's good and you're proud of it, then it's worth submitting, because more than likely we will feature it.
Plus, as well, it's not just that. It's like, as we were saying before, we aim to be inclusive, and we don't want to kind of discourage anyone. Like, as you were saying, if you've poured your heart and soul into making some work, you know, send it to us. Let us have a look at it. Even if you don't want us to necessarily feature it, even if you just want some opinions on it, we've got a plethora of people who we have kind of within the Murn spectrum who can give you an opinion on your work. Because obviously Luke and I are mainly photography based and text based, but we have people who write for us and who like kind of do little bits on the side for us, who are artists, who are, you know, featured in other mediums of art, who will give you an opinion on it, even if you don't want it to be featured. We're not just here to put up work. We're here to encourage and support as well, which I think is the most important thing, more so than anything else.
For sure, yeah. And we also do want to point out that we are not just going to be featuring artists on our webzine every month. You know, if you send us some work, like Andy said, if you don't want it featured, you know, we can just repost it. Anything we can do to help you out, you know, let us know. And but something that we also want to do on this podcast is just talk about work that's inspired us. And again, this is a very personal thing, the podcast, but that's exactly what we're making it for. And I know, Andy, you said to me before we started recording that there was somebody that has really inspired you, and you wanted to touch on that a little bit. Why don't you run us through that a little bit?
Yeah, so it's somebody that I've been aware of for a while. And recently some of the work that she's been putting out from this series. So the series is called Days of Purification, and there are a bunch of images from a mental hospital in Poland, and I'm going to attempt to pronounce the artist's surname, but I apologize if I'm going to butcher it, but it's Laura Macabrescu. And honestly, these images, the concept behind these images is just so staggering. It's so interesting. Yeah. It's one of those ones where I'm looking at it all the time. When I always kind of go and check out her work, and every time I do, I'm just kind of like, are these real? Were these taken, like, because from what I kind of get from it is it's almost kind of like a religious concept of like a messiah, but they're in this mental hospital. So it's kind of like how you could consider that somebody who may consider themselves a messiah now would be considered totally crazy, but back then obviously would have been lauded. And that's what I kind of get from these images. Whether or not that's actually what the artist was going for, I don't know. So
it's impressive that she's got that opportunity to get those images, even like in that situation. You know, you wouldn't think that someone would be able to whip out a camera.
Well, that's exactly it. Like, I look at these pictures and I assume that they're staged. Like, I can't say one way or the other.
Right, okay.
But that's to attest for the quality of these images and the mood and the character that she's managed to put forth in these images are just blow me away. And every time, and plus as well, they're all really, really high contrast, really nice, grainy, black and white images.
Yeah.
They're my kind of bread and butter, the stuff that I love.
Yeah.
And it's just, every now and then, every couple of days, I'll just have a good scroll through because she uploads it. And I think as well, the way she's kind of doing it at the minute, again, I haven't kind of got the material in front of me to check on, so I'll just kind of touch on what I can remember, which I may be misremembering, but I'm pretty sure that she's doing it. So she's kind of selling an online, kind of like a digital photo book of these images. A lot of them are unreleased; they haven't been released anywhere else. So Laura Macabrescu, I'm pretty sure her Instagram handle is just at Laura Macabrescu, all one word. So I would advise people to go check her out and support her in any way they can.
For sure. Anyone that we do talk about on the podcast, we will provide some links. And as you can see, we are actually videoing this podcast, so we will provide the links for the likes of YouTube and things below. And anyone that's been spoken about on this podcast will definitely get the right credit for it.
Yeah, just a couple of other little things. Obviously, we're really looking forward to the September issue, as we are every single month, because we've always just getting, as you've touched on, we are constantly looking for more people to submit. We do tend to have like kind of between 4 and 6 submissions a month, but we'd really we'd welcome more. We'd welcome as many as we could get, really, as many good quality submissions as we could get.
We actually have already had some submissions in. Literally one day after we released the August issue, we had another submission come through, and it's a really impressive one that is going to be featured. So get in contact.
Keep them coming in. And it's one of those as well, like if you see that somebody you know or somebody that has inspired you has been featured by us, and you think, oh well, I wouldn't want to approach them because they've already had somebody that does something, don't think of it like that. No. Because we're always into it. And even if it's like, if it's really similar or really kind of comparable to something we featured like maybe a month before, then we might say, we love this, we'll feature it in a couple of months. Or if you've got like a kind of, which we've had before, where people have had like an exhibition coming up, but it's in a couple of weeks. Yeah, that's fine. We'll just feature it next month. We want to support you. We want to give you something that you can put towards what you're doing. Another thing that I just kind of wanted to touch on, which we have kind of put on Instagram before, I know I've kind of posted on my personal Instagram as well. We are looking for more people to get involved with Murn behind the scenes, so not just artists to feature work. We are looking for some writers and potentially even some kind of deputy editors as well. Not going to say too much here just because we've not kind of worked the ins and outs of it yet of how we're going to do it and how it's going to work. But we are definitely looking for some people who, if you're interested, if you are a writer or if you're a creator, a marketer, if you've got any kind of transferable skill that you feel you could contribute to Murn, if you've been in the background and you're maybe not a creator but you enjoy what we post and you want to help support us in some way or support the artists, then make yourself known. We're interested. We want more people just to get involved. mostly just to avoid the echo chamber of just kind of me and you and the couple of people that we already have working.
Yeah,
it'd be nice to get
same opinions.
Yeah, we just need some wider opinions. We need some wider kind of influences. People who don't know stuff that we don't. People who know stuff that we don't know. That's one of the most important things for me. Getting people just to kind of give a more informed and interesting background into the work that we're featuring.
And we do want to also say, like, to everyone that has already featured work with us, we've got like 5 months worth of features now. A huge number of artists that we've connected with, and we want to say thanks to everyone that has sent work in and had things featured, because without you, literally, it wouldn't work, because that you are the fuel that keeps Murn going. And we're just really grateful for everything we've had sent in. It's really opened our eyes to the current creative quality that is out there, and I'm really impressed with everything that's going on so far. And huge thanks to everybody that has sent work in and connected with us.
Yeah, we can't thank people enough who are willing to take the leap of submitting work, especially work that's, some of the work's really personal, some of it can be really like specific and kind of intimate with yourselves, but to be willing to kind of before this podcast, obviously submit it to people you don't know, just to kind of, we approach people, especially when we had virtually nothing going on. We didn't even have the website active.
No.
And people were willing,
for sure,
were into having us feature the work. And it's just like you said, we're so indebted to you all for kind of allowing us to feature your work, and to hopefully through doing that we can help support you as well in some way.
Yes, for sure. So that brings the very first Murn podcast to an end, I think, to a close. And we definitely want to start doing this more often. Hopefully we can try and arrange a guest for Murn podcast number 2. But for today, thanks for listening. And if you're watching, thanks for watching as well. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks very much.